Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I really am the entree musician, and so are you. And so is this wonderful brother we're talking to from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He is an incredible singer, has amazing range, a great story, wonderful songwriter. This is none other than Thomas Alexander. Thomas, how are you doing, bro?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Jerry?
Man, I'm doing absolutely excellent. Now, it's raining here in Ohio, USA. What's the weather looking like up there in Alberta?
Well, we're about Alberta. We're about -6 in Edmonton today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not t-shirt. It's not t-shirt and shorts weather yet.
Right. So, with respect to starting from the beginning, I don't want to start from the beginning. I actually want to start at the end because we're at the end of 2022 going into a new year. And what are some of the things that you have planned for this coming year at the end of this one?
All right. Well, for the new year coming up, I'm in the process of course, writing as much as I possibly can. I've got probably about 5 different tunes on the go in various stages, and I'm excited to get them all charted and hopefully get them into the studio as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. So, how long have you been in the business? That's one thing I don't know about you. How long have you been singing as well as you have?
Oh gosh. My first band I started in was I was 19, and I'm 73 right now. So I've basically been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
The first band I sang with was a rock band. So I got my rock chops down back in the day, and grew up in a house that played nothing but beautiful jazz.
Yeah.
And so when it came time to go out and sing, that's where I had to try and find somebody that played music like we had in the house. And there wasn't anybody, at least nobody locally anyway.
Yeah.
So I got my start singing rock. Yeah. And then rock. And then we were doing Alberta. It's in the West. So, of course, it's the majority of the music is either country or rock. So those are the two styles of music that you either learn to sing or you don't work. So so I learned to sing country as well, and sort of country rock. Mm-hmm. And that helped my career along. Mm-hmm. So when country rock sort of became popular, my band was very popular because that's what we were doing. Sorry, it was country rock, and that's similar to what they got going on with the newer country.
I see.
Yeah, it's not all twang and stuff like that like it used to be. So
right.
That's the kind of stuff that I was doing back in the day. And then I heard Motown, and it just kind of knocked me off my feet.
Right.
And I couldn't quite figure out how these guys were doing this. And I was trying to sing Motown, and I really had no idea that, like in the Temptations and that, they had like 4 singers. And a lot of times they would intertwine and so on like this. So I was trying to do what 4 singers were doing with one voice.
Right.
And I really had no idea what I was doing, just that I knew that I couldn't naturally sing up there anyway.
Yeah.
So I knew nothing about what falsetto was either. So like, it looks like we're starting to pixelate again, but with the Motown guys, they had a lot of falsetto and, 4-part harmony and 5-part harmony. And
right.
So, me getting into the business, that's how I kind of cut my teeth.
What were you listening to when you were in your rock country years? Were these Canadian artists or were they artists from the States? I know Motown, obviously. I know the answer to that, but the rock bands that influenced you, who were they?
Yeah. Well, as far as rock and roll or rock went, of course, it'd be the American rock bands and things like some of the British bands. That I listened to in country. It was like the Flying Burrito Brothers and stuff like that. What's the Allman Brothers and different country groups like that. Mm-hmm. In rock we were pretty well whatever was on the radio at the time is what we were learning to sing. There was no no Metallica or those other bands at the time. Back in the day, it was rock. One of the groups that I listened to was the Band.
Yeah.
When they were backing up a fella by the name of Ronnie Hawkins.
There you go.
And his was kind of like Rock Billy. Yeah, Rock Billy. So the band became Band after, and so on. So yeah, I got my feet in the water there as well, and a well-rounded vocalist as far as different musical styles. I don't do screamo. And can't do screamo, and I can't rap.
So you didn't try.
But I also did. No, because I knew that would hurt even more. And then rapping, of course, it's a matter of trying to remember the words.
Yeah. which is helpful.
And then I got to. Yeah, well, it is helpful, but in rap they got so many different words that they're, like a machine gun almost, spewing all these lyrics out at the same time and whatnot. Sure. So I never really got into it. The music part of it I liked, the beats and stuff that they had. I did also got into some pop, as well as I did a couple of musicals and things like that. So, so yeah, I almost became an opera singer many years ago. I'm glad I didn't.
I didn't know that part of the story. Tell me about that.
Well, well, as a rock singer, Motown came out. I was, untrained, just a street vocalist and stuff like that, trying to do everything the wrong way in order to try and learn how to do it the right way. So in other words, when it hurt, you had to find a way to do it where it didn't hurt. And when I had started singing, the bands were learning music by ear. So anytime you would, want to do a song, it was the record key.
Yeah.
Whether it was a female singer or the guys in Motown, that was record keys. And I was really hurting myself. Like it was just like somebody took sandpaper and would rub my vocal cords raw. And I said, it's got to be an easier way to do this. And I went out and I talked to a few people about trying to find out what was the easier way for me to do what I needed to do. And none of them really knew. I got some really bad advice, and I knew that was wrong because that's exactly what I was doing. Scream, keep screaming a lot. And, and I knew that was wrong because you're going to lose your voice. And then I was introduced to, told to, contact this one lady, and her name was St. Jean de Bronskeville.
Huh.
And she was an elderly lady, and she had a little dog. And I phoned up and I said, I'm having a lot of trouble with my voice, and I need somebody to help me. And I understand that you train vocalists. And she said, well, come and see me. So she said, bring some sheet music. So I brought some sheet music of tunes that I wanted to sing. So I went in and I met her, and she sat down with the sheet music and she says, okay, let me hear you sing. So she started playing on the piano, and I would sing behind her. And about, halfway through the tune, she just stopped singing, turned around, looked at me and says, I can't help you. And here I was like, what? So my heart kind of hit the ground because I needed help, and I didn't know what to do next. And then she said, well, let me revise that. She said, it's not that I can't help you. She says, if I take you on as a student, she says, I will change everything that you have. She says, because what I hear, I hear the tone, I hear all of these different things and so on like that. And she says, I train opera singers. So she said, I don't want to do that to you. She says, when I hear your voice, she says, comparing you to an opera singer, she says, I hear the great Caruso, who I had no idea who that was. And said, so for me to help you, I would change everything she says, I really don't want to do that to you.
I see.
So she says, the other thing is, she says, you're trying to sing tunes out of your out of your chest tone into head tone. She says, have you ever heard of falsetto? And I said, no. She says, well, when you brought me this Motown stuff, she says, a lot of these singers are singing falsetto. Sing, skip the way the only way I knew how. I didn't know there was, didn't know what falsetto was. And she kind of says, okay, I'll give you a couple of, she says, the only thing I can do for you, I'll give you some, and she said, and just a little advice, if you want to sing high, you have to build a strong bass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she says, and that's all I can do to help you.
Wow.
So I thought, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I went home and I'm, playing all of this in my head, and I'm in the shower. And I remember what she said about the shower, like if you want to sing high, you have to relax. So I'm in the shower and I relax. She says, you got to hear the note. And I would hear the note and I'd try and hit it. And all of a sudden the note was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all excited, right? Like, wow. And so I tried it again. Didn't hit it that time. And then I relaxed a little bit more and I tried it again, and bam, I hit the note. Then I thought, let's see if I can sing a couple of notes. So I ended up singing a couple of notes and getting stronger at that.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to, sing a little bit more and like almost like a whole line and stuff like this, I was so excited. I phoned her up to tell her all the things that her and I had talked about, and it works. And I was told that she had passed.
Oh my!
And this was like within approximately a month of meeting this lady.
Oh my!
She had passed away because she was quite sick.
Mm.
So I remembered everything she told me,
Mm-hmm.
and I practiced it, and I was able to increase my range by a full octave.
Yeah.
And so on like this. And then as a rock singer, finding easy ways to do things, and a little bit of what she told me and trying to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I did quite well, and it didn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Trying to do these things, because learning to relax to do it makes a huge difference than
Absolutely.
straining to do it. And I was straining to do it all the time before.
Well, let me ask this question.
So that's kind of how I started. Yeah.
You have such a unique speaking voice. Have you used your speaking voice in projects or voiceover or narration or anything like that? Because your speaking voice and your singing voice, when I hear your music, they're two different. Some of the notes that you're hitting and whatnot, I'm like, wow, Thomas. But the first question,
it is different. It's like two different people,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
well, I haven't really. Well, I haven't really done any voiceover work.
Mm-hmm.
Or narration, unless it's in one of my tunes where I'll say something in my tune and then go on into singing it and stuff like that. Doing narration is something that I've always thought about.
Yeah.
Especially when people comment about the speaking book. And I thought,
exactly. Like audio
maybe
books.
It's not that bad,
No, I could hear you narrating projects or doing audio books or reading Shakespeare or something like that. I hear that.
Shakespeare, whoa. Well, that's I mean, I never really, back in the day, I never thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the last little while, I had thought about perhaps doing some narration and stuff like this, because you listen to what's his name, James Earl Jones.
Correct.
In
Correct.
Star Wars, where he was the voice. He was the voice of Darth Vader, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
A lot of times people get famous that way. You don't know who it is, and then all of a sudden they come on and you hear them speak, and you go, "Whoa, that's the guy from."
That's exactly
so
right.
James Earl Jones, and I don't know if anybody really knew about James Earl Jones. He stuttered.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
Yeah, he stuttered, and a lot of people had no idea. There was I think it was Mel Torme, who's an excellent singer.
Yeah,
he stuttered.
Wow, I didn't know about.
Like when he would talk, he stuttered really, really badly. But then when he sang, you'd never know. Yeah,
amazing.
So I don't stutter. At least I don't think I do.
You don't
unless I get
stutter.
nervous. I think when I was okay, when I was a young guy, maybe meeting a beautiful woman for the first time,
Oh, well,
and
everybody
wanting to
stutters.
talk to her, maybe I might have stuttered or
Yeah.
tripped over my tongue when I'm trying to talk to her, and she kind
Yeah.
of looked at me and said, "This guy's strange," and just walk away from him.
Well, everybody stutters at that point. That's. But let me ask you
Yeah,
this
I think
question.
so. So
With respect
yes.
to your songwriting, because you write some great songs, when did you begin writing songs? You were playing in the cover bands, you were playing rock, playing country, and whatnot. But when did you put pen to paper
Right.
and begin your own process?
Probably about would have been possibly about 2 years after I started singing in a rock band.
Hmm.
And a lot of the music that we were doing, we were a rock dance band. Like the rock that we were doing was party rock. It was party dance, sing along, scream, stomp your feet, that kind of thing. And I was writing that kind of music because I said, this is good because when people come out to hear a group, they want to be entertained, they want to have a good time.
Certainly.
So a lot of my early music and even some of my later music uh, kind of went to that event, I guess is what I'd say as far as writing music. You write a song, it's either you tell a story,
Yes.
which is really important as far as music goes, but it's kind of great if you can tell a story and make somebody nod their head and stamp their feet and smile and go, yeah. It's even better if they sing along, they get involved in the song. So
Absolutely.
I truly believe when you're writing music, uh, it's nice to get your audience involved.
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Well, you have a
yeah.
you
So
have
if
a
you go out
big,
for a good
huge.
night,
I'm sorry, I didn't let you finish. I apologize.
yeah,
It's
no, go ahead.
it's the
Yeah, I
delay.
finished. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the delay. For those of you who are listening to this, there's a slight delay between us. Uh, but you have such an incredible stage presence too. I mean, I've saw some of your videos with the band, and you know how to really engage the audience. I guess that came from your rock days, because it's all about engagement at a rock concert. But you take that same energy
Yeah.
and you put it on a jazz platform. Tell me about the transference.
Well, the transference of jazz, again, as I said, I kind of listening to uh, the greatest jazz singers and greatest jazz musicians out there. So that was always part of uh, what was in my heart to do was to be able to sing jazz and so on like this. And then, of course, a rock singer. And I have to tell you the story. Uh, uh, the first time it happened to me, being on stage in front of a bunch of people. We were playing a very large venue, and the keyboard player, his dad was a pretty important guy in the government. So he got us this gig. This was like one of our first really, really big gigs
Hmm.
at this place. And the guitar player and bass player used to stand right beside me on stage, so I didn't feel so bad. Like I was comfortable up there and stuff like this. So we're doing this gig, and what happened to me? There were two girls sitting out front, and they were smiling at me. And I'm a young guy. I thought, wow, these girls are really checking us out, and really. And the guitar player and the bass player stepped back
Wow.
and kind of left
Kind
me
of
out
left
there
you
by
there.
myself. And now I'm kind of looking to my left and my right, trying to get them to move back up. Come on, stand up here beside me. And they would say, no, man, no, you're the singer. No, it's all on you. So I learned from that moment. I learned from that moment because you're not always going to have somebody standing beside you to make you comfortable. And as the lead singer, you got to stand out there, and you're kind of on your own in one way. You got the support of the band behind you,
Sure.
but what you do when you're out in front of that band is really important.
That's right.
So you might as well get comfortable with it.
That's
You
right.
know, I mean, a few times after that, yeah, I was nervous and stuff like that, but it kind of went away.
Hmm.
And after a while, it just felt like home. You walk
Absolutely.
on stage, I'm home, I'm comfortable.
So, with
Yeah,
all of
there,
the
there we are. Yeah.
genres of music
Uh-huh.
that you have been involved in, do you have a favorite, or are you just a music lover and it's all one big stew? to you?
Well, I kind of, I kind of love it all. Uh, do I love jazz. I just love the way it makes me feel, and again, the memories of all the great jazz like this. I love my Christian gospel music as well, and I've just been by so many great vocalists that I've seen come out of the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a totally different venue, different way that they sing and they perform and so on like this.
Certainly.
When it comes to like my Motown stuff, like
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Motown. Like I remember all that stuff, and the beautiful falsetto harmonies and all the four part and all of this stuff like this, where they made it look easy. Until such time as I figured out, had an idea what the heck they were doing. It was kind of lost to me. Singers like, she wasn't really Motown, was like Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
There's only one Aretha,
Absolutely.
Patti LaBelle. I just love Patti LaBelle as well.
Yeah.
I love Gladys Knight. Gladys Knight was from, the Motown era.
Sure.
Mavis Staples.
Yeah.
First time I heard Mavis, they did the tune, Respect Yourself.
Yeah.
Respect Yourself,
Right,
and that's when they had her dad was on stage with her sisters, and they did this Respect Yourself, and I said, wow, because it kind of went right down to the bone of the way the music was. It was like guitar and their vocals.
Certainly.
Broke it down. They didn't have no screaming guitars and all drums and all that stuff, so they didn't have any of that stuff. So a lot of times it's nice to go back to just the basics of music.
That's correct.
And then that way you kind of get into your little pocket, and even if it's just a guitar player or somebody sitting on the piano just playing some chords and stuff, it's kind of nice for a singer to shed all that noise in the background and then just kind of try and hear himself and be at one with that other instrument. So when it comes to the style music, I mean, I still write rock. It's dance rock, party rock. It's like, all right, clap your hands, stomp your feet, let me hear you scream, and so on like that. I still write that kind of music because I really feel it's still needed.
Yes.
People want to go out and have a good time.
Exactly.
Be entertained. They want to sing. Like if you go out for an evening as a group of people, and you're enjoying the band and you're singing along, I remember those songs, and you're singing along, and you got up and you got to stamp your feet and do your thing. And, we're not always the best dancers, but hey, when you're out there on the floor, involved in what's going on, like you're the greatest dancer that hit the floor. And by the time, the gig is over, like, yeah, I had a good time. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
So, yeah. Back in those days, it was all about taking all that energy that people brought to the dance and helping them expel it.
Absolutely.
And by the time the gig was over, everybody was perfect happy to go and either drive quietly home, or if they were camping out, go to their campfire and just put their feet up and relax a little bit, and contemplate life and think about all the fun they had at the gig. And that's that's, to me, that's kind of what it's about. It's entertainment, it's enjoyment. It's getting people involved. Get involved.
That's right.
As musicians, some of them get up there and they play to themselves, and that's bad. I mean, you want an audience, so why not react with your audience?
Absolutely.
You're not up there, stand with your back to the crowd and play your instrument because you're so great.
Yeah.
People might stand back and go, wow, this is the greatest musician I've ever seen in my life. It'd be so nice if they would turn around and we could see what they look like,
Well, you could tell that to Miles Davis. I mean, he had his own perception about,
Well, Miles was Miles, right? Yeah. Well, Absolutely. Miles was Miles. I mean, there will always be musicians like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's because they're afraid of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Let me
some of
ask
these
you a
musicians,
question.
they're afraid to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
interesting
Go ahead.
because when you hearken back to the music that influenced you most, and you mentioned Motown, it's interesting that all of the artists that you spoke about were female artists. You know, you didn't say Smokey
Yeah.
Robinson. You didn't, and Luther Vandross. I could recall the great Luther
Oh man,
saying that he was
Luther.
most
You know. Yeah.
influenced by the female voice. And so, is that your story
Yes,
as
he
well?
was.
Is that your
I was
story?
too because yeah, that's part of my story as well.
Yeah.
I also grew up listening to Dionne Warwick.
There you go.
You know, and that was a different style of music as well. But
Yeah.
yes, Luther Vandross. Yeah, he was influenced by the female voice. So was I, because it's a different voice,
Sure.
and
Sure.
I marveled at the way that female singers sang.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's probably also part of, you know, the style, you know, the developed style of who Thomas Alexander is as a singer. You
Mm.
know, just like, you know, as Luther had said, that's part of his style. Like, that's who Luther Vandross is. And if anybody really has never heard of Luther Vandross, I would recommend they
Um,
get some of his stuff and listen to brother.
do
You
it
know,
today.
there will never be another voice. Yeah, never be another voice like Luther Vandross.
Absolutely.
You know, there's been so many vocals that have come and gone, but the nice thing about them all is they were unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
they didn't try to sound like somebody else. They were very unique. You know, there's not another voice like Luther Vandross.
No.
There will never be another Patti LaBelle
Correct.
or Aretha Franklin.
Or
You
Shaka
know,
Khan.
there will never be another Mavis Staple or Shaka Khan. I got to see her live
Yeah, man.
as she came to town, and she was with Roots,
Uh-huh.
and she opened for Stevie Wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
And wow, what a concert! It
I can
was
imagine.
just wow. It was like the best concert I'd ever seen. We had a brand new uh, Coliseum that
Mhm.
they had opened up. They just built it, and they were the first concert in there. And I was so excited to go and see her. I just didn't wow and listen to this thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, Shaka Khan is
Yeah,
a
there's so
jewel.
many. There's a lot of great singers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what's
there's a lot.
interesting,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
before we go into the next question, is in taking that female voice and really being more influenced by it. You know, I think Marvin Gaye was mostly influenced
Mhm.
by the female singers. And me, I'm not a singer, but as a producer, I tend to ask more ladies to sing lead on songs that I write and projects that I do than guys. Not that I'm, being too specific or what have you, but I think it was my mom singing around the house, and she sang in church, and just hearing her voice. I think that caresses something that the male voice doesn't. In putting a song together
Right.
and gliding over the melody, in the meter of it, it's not so static. And I think the female voice can nurture more what the song needs. And that's just my 2 cents. I'm not a singer, I'm a producer, but
And
it was my mom's voice gliding through the air.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
see, that's the word. The word is nurturing.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
female voice is more nurturing.
it is.
You know, if you're as a baby, you know, you're listening to your mom, and a lot of times she's humming to you,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, or
Mm-hmm.
she's singing you lullabies and so on like this.
Right?
But a male voice is heavier.
Yeah.
But as a male voices can also be nurturing.
That's true.
You know, we can also nurture.
That's
You
true,
know,
but
but it's not the same as a female voice.
not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all. But yeah, I just thought
we've got
that was curious
we've got this
because
pixelation.
yeah, the pixelation is back, but it's in and out. I think
Oh,
it's
oh, it's
minus
gone.
six. The -6 degrees in Alberta is doing it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's all the warm tones, you know, crossing here on on the screen here, and then they get that cold air hits them, and they kind of pixelate a little bit. Yeah.
I do want to ask this question though, because you have a very unique story, and as I said before at the beginning of our conversation, there was a time where you had set music down. It was a very dark time for you, and you had this incredible transformation. And I think that there's someone who's out there listening to this podcast or watching this video, and I think that your story would be a proper motivation and encouragement for them. Would you mind sharing that part of your life?
Oh, of course. I went through a really bad time. I had gone and I had auditioned for all kinds of different things and never got the part. I had auditioned also for musicals because I was getting into musicals and singing a lot of that stuff. I got the part in Jesus Christ Superstar, as Judas. And I was in really good shape because I had just got back from Japan, where I sang a lot, and I worked with a lot of American musicians there, and I just had a ball. And I came back, I was in really good vocal shape. And I arrived back, and there was a message for me. The next day, I had an audition for Jesus Christ Superstar. And I had seen the movie maybe 8 years before that, and I didn't really remember much about it. It's just that the tunes were great and the singers were great. And they wanted me to sing Heaven on Their Minds, which is the first song, and it's the hardest vocal for any singer to sing. And my audition was at 12 o'clock. So 17 hours of flight time, got in, probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. The music director said, come on by, I'll give you the tape, and then you got the lyrics. Grabbed the tape and the lyrics in his house. It was about, by that time, about 7 o'clock. So I said, I'll go to sleep and I'll get up and have my shower, and then I'll work on listening to this tune. As it was, I got a chance to hear it twice before I had to go for my audition. And I walked in and I basically said, I don't really know the song. I heard it about 8 years ago when I saw the musical. I ran through it maybe once before I got here, and that's all I could do. They said, well, whatever you can do is fine. So I was in good shape and powered through it, and they just said, you're our Judas. And while I was doing Jesus Christ Superstar, another musical came up, and it was a Motown review. So for me, it was exciting because, I get to do Motown. And I went down to the other city. It's about 3 hours away, and I got the part in this Motown review. I said, because I get to do Motown and so on like that. So I had to leave Jesus Christ Superstar before it ended because the Motown thing started, and there was a lot of work, like 3.5 months of work. And then they took it to Toronto, where I worked with Cara in Calgary, is where we first did the musical. And in Toronto, I worked with Bruce LaRue from The Fifth Dimension. And this brother named, he was from Five Guys Named Mo. Great big brother, about 6'9", I don't know, 300 pounds. And he had a great voice when he sang. And he said, I was in this musical, Five Guys Named Mo. And while I was in Toronto, there were a lot of auditions going on. You got a job in a musical, but also looking at the next time, whatever comes up. So I auditioned that time. I had auditioned for Phantom of the Opera. And I also had auditioned for The Lion King.
I see. So
I got the word back for The Lion King, and I'm 5'7.5". Back in the day, that's how tall I was. And they told me I wasn't tall enough for the part. I said, what the heck does that have to do with it, right? I says, I look tall when I'm on stage, right? But they said, no, we love your voice and stuff. But what they're looking for, they wanted a guy that's about 5'9", with a dancer's body. And I said, well, that kind of eliminated totally because I didn't have a dancer's body. So I had auditioned also, as I said, for Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And it was between myself and a fellow that constantly does all the musicals out of Toronto, and he got the job and I didn't.
I see.
And a few things happened, and then after a while, it just got to the point where I was getting down and depressed. I wasn't playing anywhere. There was no music about, so I was out of the music. I quit, basically quit, singing, and I wouldn't even turn on the radio. I wouldn't pick up a pen to write. I just walked away from it.
Wow.
And I was actually away from it for approximately 5, maybe 6 years, where I wouldn't even turn the radio on.
Wow.
And I went way up north to work in the oil patch, driving these big trucks. And I, back in the day when I quit the business, I had said to the Lord to take my talent, Lord. I said, because I can't use it. And I begged him to take it. But nothing had changed. I saw my singing and stuff like that, but I just wasn't listening to music. I wasn't going. And I'm sitting up north in a big truck in the middle of winter, and we're talking like about 40, 50 below. And everything freezes. Nothing is, even you walk and you're so bundled up and it's so cold. And I'm sitting in the truck, and I've got the radio from the rig, and I could hear them in the background. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And the diesel engine is humming. And all of a sudden, I got this rhythm going on in my head from this diesel engine, and lyrics started coming. And I said, Lord, what are you doing? And I had a conversation with the Lord at that time. And he said, yeah, just be patient. And before I knew it, I had within a matter of moments. And I wrote down my lyrics and stuff like that. And I said, okay, well, maybe just this one. And I, finished writing that down, and I'm sitting there, and diesel's still pumping away. And all of a sudden, the Lord, it's like he gave me a little nudge and said, and I had another song.
Wow.
And while I was up there, I had ended up writing about 10 tunes sitting in my truck. And I was having an argument with the Lord at the time. And I had said, I asked you to take this, and you didn't do that.
Who wins? Who wins those arguments?
And it comes down to the fact that, well, I know he wins, because no matter how I tried to walk away from it, it was always around me. And then when he had me quietly, just me and him up the middle of nowhere, I couldn't just go out of the truck and go somewhere.
Yeah.
He's just said, no,
that's not it.
We're going to write a tune. And before long, there it was. And I came back after, my wife, my first wife had passed away. So I never went back up north anymore after that.
I see.
So, I still continue to write to this day. Not regularly. Most people could sit there and write a tune a day or two songs a day. But sure. When I was in the truck, it was just like 3 tunes, bam, bam, bam.
Wow.
So, the mood has to hit you, and you have to be inspired. And it looks very inspiring and very insistent.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any. I had no say. So I'm here. I'm back.
Well,
excuse me.
I'm sorry that it took such a dark time in your life to bring you to that point. But, in our next conversation we have at some point, we'll talk about purpose, because obviously that conversation you had with the Lord was about your purpose and why he put you here. And I'm grateful for all of the music that you've shared, in our mastermind meetings and whatnot, because they're so different and so unique. And I can't wait until they hit the street. And I guess as you begin this conversation and saying that these are some of the projects you're going to put out in 2023, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he, as I said, there are different styles.
Yeah.
There's blues, there's jazz, there's funk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a combination of different things. And to me, it was just amazing how he manipulated me and kind of
got you back on point.
That's kind of the way. That's kind of the way it. He got the point, and I just I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah, man.
I had nothing to argue for anymore. I had to go with it. Okay,
absolutely.
Whatever you say, I'll follow.
Hey,
and yeah,
that's the only way.
Just amazing. It's just amazing what the Lord will do.
That's right.
Oh man, I was
brother,
just blown away after the first tune.
Well, I got to tell you, Thomas,
go ahead, man.
I am so absolutely grateful that you joined us, man. And this won't be our last conversation. Obviously, I talk to you most every week when the Entre Musician gathers for our mastermind group. But you are a great, great brother. And I really appreciate your story. I appreciate your spirit. And I appreciate the songs that you have written. And I know that they're going to bless many, many people. So thank you for coming on to the show, bro.
Thank you, Jerry. And again, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the group that is involved, and from everybody. When we just kind of brainstorm and put us together, and we laugh and talk about crazy things and so on like this. To me, it's such a joy.
Absolutely.
To be able to find a niche.
Absolutely.
That I think also that was probably one of the things is didn't have a niche.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I finally just walked away from it all, there, as I said, it was just not a good time.
Yeah.
I felt isolated. I didn't have a support group. And that was the other thing, had no support group, but the Lord said, just hang in there. We're moving in this direction. And sure enough, here we are. Many years later, that's when I finally met you.
And here we go.
To find out about you. And you were telling me about what you were about, the entree musician. And I said, well, okay, what's an entree musician? And then the first talk that we, actually before we even spoke, was I'm the entree musician and so are you.
Yeah.
Is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't met you yet. Wow. I said, what does he mean? That you're the entree musician and so are you. I didn't quite... It didn't hit me until I got a chance to finally meet you and talk to all the people that are involved in it. And I just said, wow, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody has something that they can bring to the party.
That's right.
Yeah. Everybody's got something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I really appreciate you, man. We'll end it right here for now, and I'm sure you'll come back and you have some more stories to tell. But this is Thomas Alexander, and he's from up in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to be exact. And so grateful to know him, and you too can find out how you can become a part of the Entre Musician Mastermind group, where we get together regularly, we encourage each other, we challenge each other, we present our music to each other, and we have grown a great community. You can just check the link down in the description box for the show notes, and you can find out how you can get involved as well. That was Thomas Alexander. Great man, great songwriter, great singer. Look for his stuff coming out in 2023. My name is Jerry B. I want you to like, subscribe, and share this video. I am the Entre Musician, but like Thomas said, that's not important. What's important is, so are you. And we will see you again next time. God bless.